Hey, I'm here with Lily and McKenna. I'm Pastor Trevor, and this is Epic Convos. McKenna, Lily, thank you so much for being here on our first ever Epic Convos. We don't totally know where this is going to go. I don't even know how long this is actually going to be. But you two volunteered to do our very first one, so thank you, first and foremost, for that. You both came near the topic the other day that hits home for you, and it's the idea that you are, well, are not the product of your environment. Why is that the first thing that came out to your mind when I talked about doing this podcast with you guys? Like, immediately you went to, you are not a product of your environment, which is kind of contradictory to what a lot of people say.
Growing up, it was always a struggle to get my family to go to church. My dad did make an effort when I was little, but in middle school, I completely cut church out of my life. I finally came to Epic in 7th grade, and Lily actually brought me. And I was really nervous, but it finally, it sparked, this passion that I forgot, I had. And then I finally started going back on Sundays with my grandma. And so I also, I have a background where I think you would look at me and say, how did she find church? Because you won't see my parents at church. And I don't know. I don't think that your past should define who you are today and who you will become.
Remember that whatever you share could strike or spark something in somebody else. And may make them feel more confident in sharing a story they have. So could you share what you feel comfortable about your past, or what you say, oh, well, what happened to us would make people think, oh, maybe we wouldn't be at church, or those types of things?
My parents got divorced when I was 2. And ever since then, my mom got remarried, and then they got divorced again. So I went through 2 divorces in my childhood, and then my dad got remarried. And I have a really good relationship with her. But in middle school, when I say I completely lost church, I surrounded myself with people I shouldn't have surrounded myself with, people who didn't know Jesus, people who, I got tested so many times by peer pressure, and I gave in so many times that I shouldn't have, and I'm still trying to get over that. I mean, I've repented, and I've given it to God, but there's still so many times I wish I could go back and change who I surrounded myself with in middle school.
Proverbs 13:20 says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And so I think a really interesting thing about this topic is we do see points where it's not true. Like you guys both have said, hey, if it was fully true, we wouldn't be where we are. But we also see points where it is true. Mm-hmm. You've talked about basically when you're at your worst moment, you were surrounded by the people who you really should not have been around. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you had moments where you came out of that. You could also go on the lines of you surrounded yourself with someone else who wanted the same thing you did. Yeah. You two being friends is in a way controlling your environment. We're not going to let everybody else influence us, but we're going to choose what influences us. So I really like that. You've kind of defied part of it, but you've also really shown what a good friend, a godly friend, someone who wants the same thing as you actually can do and gets you away from a place you shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Lily, is your story similar to McKenna's? Is it different?
We both like to say our situations are so similar, but they're also so different because my parents got divorced when I was 1, and my dad married my stepmom. They're still married. And my mom married my stepdad, And I think we have, like, our whole, like, childhood, we grew up with having to pick sides and arguments and, like, never, like, being able to enjoy being young because the whole time we're stuck between our family's drama but also, like, trying to please everyone and everything. And I think at some point, like, it's really hard to let go of that. And, like, I think for a while I was afraid to go back to church because I wasn't sure what people would think of me or my family or, like, where I come from.
I think, like, going off of what Lily just said, like, you see families at church and they're together and it's a man and a woman and children, and you go to church and you almost feel like guilty because you're a product of this is where I see it differently, where, like, I am a product of divorced parents.
Okay.
And you'll see me at church with my grandparent, like with my grandma. And I think I was afraid of that too. Afraid of feeling judged because my parents didn't go to church, because my parents were divorced, and because I was a part of that. And I was still trying to create a relationship with God. But, like, as I've grown in the church, I've realized that nobody's going to judge you for that. Like, nobody's going to judge you about, like, for your past. Like, I can't control that. That is not in my control. I can only control what I'm doing today and how I'm growing my relationship with God every day. So I think what Lily said is so true.
So one thing I want to ask the both of you is, what would you tell, like, a younger you? What would you tell, I don't know, maybe a 6th, 7th, 8th grader, or even someone your own age who might be stuck, at least feel stuck in that environment, or not have a friend who wants to get out of it or get closer to God? What do you think you'd tell them?
I think it's really important to surround yourself with people, like, that you can control. Like, so McKenna, like, I feel like our whole time growing up, we have people in our lives and we can't control what has happened with them. But I think it's important to find other people who, like, you know that they're going to lead you to better things and you can move away from what has happened to you. But, like, that's also hard because you can't control everyone you meet and you can't control who you're around all the time.
I think another big thing is going to Epic on Wednesdays. See, that's how I've gotten back into church, and it's created a lot of relationships that I still have today. And, like, you have something in common, and that's the love you have for Jesus. And I think that is so big and powerful because you can create bonds off of that.
You know, going to Epic, being around the people who also want to, you know, sharpen what it means to be a Christ follower. I think that is just huge. Now, that doesn't mean totally excluding everybody else from your life, because we are called to preach, we are called to share Jesus with people, but we're also called to not become of the world. So, question for the two of you is, how do you best do that?
It's a big part of having each other as an accountability buddy, while, like, making sure we both have a firm foundation in our faith, while also bringing other people in the church. I think it's so easy to get caught up in worldly things, but having that accountability partner by your side while trying to bring people in, it's super important to stay on track with your faith.
We've both got dragged into friendships that we should not have been a part of.
Yeah.
And I think it was us trying to help those people. And I think we let them, like, not like control us, but we were trying to help them and we got dragged into something that, like, we did not want to be a part of.
Yeah.
But I think, like, at that point we were just so lost and we didn't know how to, like, get out of that. And at that time, we've been friends since we were, like, in kindergarten, but at that point, like, we weren't as close as we used to be. And I think because we weren't as close, we weren't holding each other accountable.
If you've ever met Lily and McKenna, you probably say that. You probably say Lily and McKenna. I don't know if I've met two closer accountability partners, friends, whatever you want to call them. They're usually together. We went on a high school trip, and these two girls were together like the entire time, and it was cool. But now I see why. I see so much behind it, and I love the accountability you have for each other. I love your friendship you guys have with each other. And I love what you said a little bit ago about I don't know, almost weren't strong enough in, I don't want to say in your faith, but just in like your biblical knowledge and in your foundation of where you were. And we struggled trying to help other people because we were kind of at a point where we were struggling a little bit too. And I think that really puts an emphasis on, like, yes, absolutely help people, absolutely try to bring people to God. But when you do it, you might face attack. You will face, the opposite of what you want to get done. You'll face evil. I mean, the devil knows when you're trying to do good and will hopefully do bad against you. So it's so important to try to be sound, have biblical knowledge, and then have an accountability partner. Or one of you even said, like, have someone else from the church, be able to back you up or give you that knowledge. And I think that is just so good because you don't need to ever go in alone. I mean, you have Jesus, you have God when you're going, but having a friend there to back you up, that is awesome. All right, so I do have to know, where did this start? Where did this friendship begin?
We met in kindergarten, and we were in the same class, and we didn't really get super close until, I think it was second grade, yeah. And since second grade, we were literally best friends. Like, people, like, we were never, like, away from each other. And people would get so mad at us sometimes because we were always together and we would not do anything alone. And then I think after, like, COVID happened and we went into middle school, because that was our 5th grade, beginning of 6th grade year.
Lily went online for 6th grade. So that caused, like,
So we didn't see each other. And she met new people because she was at school and I wasn't.
How dare she?
And so I think we just kind of like distanced ourselves from each other, and it wasn't like on purpose. Mm-mm. We just weren't around each other. And then in like 7th grade, I think we started hanging out again, and like we knew like why were we not friends? Yeah. And then we ended up. I actually remember we were at church on Sunday with my mom and her grandma, and they were talking about baptisms. And we were like, we should do that. And we, like, right then at church on a Sunday, we knew, like, we wanted to get baptized together because that was just so cool. And we were both ready. And I think we knew that we needed each other to bring ourselves back to God, because we were both definitely distanced from Him during middle school and when we weren't close. And so I think that us getting baptized together was a huge part of our friendship.
So girls, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I think a couple key takeaways that I've personally got from this is, in a way, you can be a product of your environment, but you don't have to let that define you. And I think you've both shown that so well. Another thing I've seen from both of you is just super obvious is the importance of an accountability partner. Of a friend who wants the same thing you do, of a friend who wants to walk with Jesus and grow closer and stronger with that relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. And I've just seen that through the conversation with you two and just interacting with you two throughout, camps and trips and nights at Epic, which everybody should certainly be at, that it is just so obvious how important you two can be for each other's walk with Christ. I want to end here with a little bit of a variation of a verse from Proverbs that says this. Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother or sister is born for adversity. You two have certainly shown that. Thank you so much for being part of this first Epic Convo.
I'm McKenna Close.
And I'm Lily Hollowpeter.
And this is Epic Convos.